Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Main Event Insider, your #1 WWE hub. Don't forget to subscribe and let's dive in. What happened on Monday Night Raw felt like a storyline earthquake. One of those rare twists that makes the entire WWE Universe sit up, drop their snacks, and stare at the screen, wondering if they really saw what they just saw. After months of tension, drama, and emotionally charged storytelling involving Liv Morgan, Dominik Mysterio, and Rhea Ripley, Raw delivered one of the most dramatic turns in recent memory. It wasn't just a breakup on live television. It wasn't just a shocking announcement. It was a moment that felt personal, emotional, and layered in a way WWE hasn't touched in a long time. And fans are still buzzing about whether it was strategic brilliance, heartbreaking betrayal, or a mix of both. Liv Morgan's sacrifice and transformation. For months, Liv Morgan had transformed herself completely. Once the beloved high-energy underdog of the women's division, she stepped into a darker, more complex role, aligning herself with Dominik and pushing the boundaries of fan loyalty. Whether fans agreed with her actions or not, one thing was certain: Liv went all in. She risked her reputation, she allowed herself to be booed out of arenas, and she reshaped her entire persona around her storyline with Dominik. This wasn't a casual flirtation. It was a full character immersion, and Liv committed like few superstars ever do. She walked away from friendships, alliances, and momentum, convinced that her partnership with Dominik, emotionally and strategically, was the direction she needed to go. And for a time, it worked. She had attention, she had heat, and she had a storyline that made her one of the most talked about performers in WWE. Dominik Mysterio's complicated rise. Dominik's own journey has been one of the most unpredictable arcs in WWE. From the wide-eyed newcomer shadowed by the legend of Rey Mysterio, he grew into a villain the audience truly loved to hate. His pairing with Rhea Ripley elevated him in ways few expected. Together, they became one of the most magnetic duos on WWE television. When Liv Morgan entered the picture, that dynamic shifted dramatically. Fans watched as Dominik distanced himself from Rhea, leaned into Liv's influence, and embraced the chaos surrounding the storyline triangle. Whether he was being manipulated, empowered, confused, or strategic depended on who you asked. But his evolution made him one of the division's most unpredictable figures. The Raw segment that broke everything apart. What happened on this week's Raw didn't begin like a disaster. Liv Morgan was in the ring, composed and confident, talking about her championship path and the journey she'd taken. She brought up Dominik, the man she believed was still firmly by her side. When she called Dom out, she was expecting the usual reunion, hand-holding, smirking, and the kind of over-the-top affection that made the crowd groan. Dominik's entrance with no smile. But this time was different. Dominik walked out without his usual swagger, without the smirk fans were used to chanting, and his expression was tight, serious, almost conflicted. The audience sensed it immediately. Something was wrong, something big, and Liv knew it too. When she reached for him, he didn't respond the way he normally would. He stood still, guarded, looking at her without the warmth she was expecting, the cold conversation that shocked the crowd. When Dominik lifted the microphone, silence filled the arena. No interruptions, no crowd chants, just tension thick enough to feel. Dominik spoke calmly, not angrily, explaining that the partnership between them wasn't what people thought it was. That somewhere along the way, things changed for him. He told Liv that he needed distance, space, and a different direction in his career. The words weren't loud or cruel. They were quiet, firm, and painfully matter-of-fact, which somehow made them hit even harder. Liv's reaction was heartbreaking. Genuine confusion washed over her face, followed by disbelief. She had committed so much to this partnership, only to find out that Dominik no longer felt the same way. Her character, normally confident and defiant, suddenly looked vulnerable in a way fans rarely see from her. Rhea Ripley's dramatic return. Then the lights dropped, the crowd erupted, and standing at the top of the ramp was Rhea Ripley, finally returning with the presence of someone reclaiming what was always hers. She walked down the aisle slowly, deliberately, not aggressive, not angry, just completely in control. Rhea didn't yell. She didn't attack. She simply walked into the ring and stood beside Dominik, creating a visual that said everything without a single word. The message was clear. The old connection between them wasn't dead. Dominik wasn't standing alone, and Liv was suddenly the outsider again. Liv's emotional collapse. Liv didn't lash out. She didn't scream. She simply stood there frozen, overwhelmed by a wave of emotions she couldn't defend against. It was the first time in this storyline that Liv wasn't the instigator, the strategist, or the one pulling strings. She was the one being left behind. And for the WWE Universe, it was a shocking moment of vulnerability that shifted the audience's perception instantly. Fans who once booed her suddenly felt the weight of what she was experiencing, a storyline with massive future potential. This moment didn't just end a relationship, it opened endless doors. Liv Morgan now has the chance to make one of the strongest babyface returns in years. The sympathy she gained in one segment overshadowed months of boos. Her redemption arc could be powerful, emotional, and compelling if WWE leans into it. Dominik, meanwhile, has stepped into a deeper heel role. Not the comedic villain he once was, but a conflicted, complicated antagonist whose decisions have consequences. And Rhea Ripley? She returns to Raw as a powerhouse, both physically and psychologically. She didn't need to attack Liv to reclaim her spotlight. Her presence and timing did all the work. The WWE Universe Reacts social media exploded instantly. Fans debated every angle, whether Dominik made the right choice, whether Liv deserved sympathy, whether Rhea orchestrated the entire moment, and how this storyline might affect championship pictures on Raw. The audience wasn't just entertained, they were invested. Everyone had an opinion, and everyone wanted to know what happens next. Where the story goes from here will live. Morgan seek revenge? Will she rebuild herself stronger than ever? Will Dominik commit fully to standing with Rhea again? Will Rhea reveal her true intentions in the coming weeks? And what role does this moment play in the wider Raw landscape? The possibilities are huge, unpredictable, and exciting. A new era begins. One thing is certain, this is the kind of layered, emotional WWE storyline that fans talk about for years. The betrayal was dramatic, the performances were powerful, and the fallout is going to reshape Raw's landscape in ways nobody expected. The door is now open for one of the most compelling rivalries, comebacks, and character evolutions of the year, and everyone is watching to see the next chapter unfold.